I'd like you all to meet Linda Jones, who's a painter. Linda, this is quick fire. What's your favourite? Oil or acrylic?
Well, neither of those really, because I paint predominantly in watercolour. But the painting I've got here is actually acrylic. So to answer your question, I paint mainly in watercolour, my favourite medium, but I also painted acrylic and mixed media. They're all water-based. I don't paint in oil any longer. I paint in my home, and in the old days I didn't want the different chemicals going through my heating system.
Do you prefer to paint clean air or go outside, take a photo and bring it back in?
I do both. I like to paint outside when I can. In the summer that's a bit difficult with watercolours because I like to keep the edges and my watercolours fluid, and if you paint in tremendous heat then the edges get very solid and sharp, and that spoils. So I try to paint when I can, and sometimes I don't paint fast enough, so I start plein air and then take it back to my studio to finish with photographs.
When you first began to paint, who was the artist that inspired you and you thought, if I could paint like...
Oh dear, that's a difficult question because I like so many. I would actually like to say something about the teachers that taught me when I started to paint more seriously, and I went to the McLean Project of the Arts, and the artist teacher there that particularly helped me was Julie Lansor, and she was the one who looked over my shoulder once and said, you know, this is good enough for you to show and sell. And so she was a tremendous mentor and really encouraged me. And so I'd like to mention her, as well as the other teachers at the McLean Project for the Arts, who really pushed me out of the door to do it more seriously.
Do you recall selling your first piece? And if you do, did you sell it to somebody you knew, or a perfect stranger who may have walked in to an event like Studio Tour and seen that piece?
Well, that was precisely it. Julie Lansor, when she put her head over my shoulder and said, I really like that and I like the work that you've been doing, would you like to take part in a show that I'm organising? That's my first show ever, was actually in her house, and then there was another one at another artist's house in Maryland. And I had recently visited Switzerland and Geneva, and I painted a painting, a watercolour, plein air, in Switzerland by Lake Geneva called Tranquility. And a lady came in and said, that's really lovely, where did you paint it? And I told her the story that I painted it on the day that Hurricane Isabel hit Virginia. And so she said, I've got to have that because my house was chopped in two in Hurricane Isabel by an oak tree in my yard, and that reminds me that we can return to a tranquil place. So the first painting I sold has got quite a story because it was an unusual situation.
Where do you get your inspiration from?
I get my inspiration from nature. I paint a lot of landscapes and trees and flowers and birds, all aspects of nature. But living in the Great Falls area here, there's a tremendous environment around to inspire me.
How about people? Do they...
Well, that's the other great thing about living in Great Falls, because one of my tremendous forms of inspiration is to be a member of Great Falls Studios, which includes not only painters like me, but photographers and quilters and potters, and we, when there isn't a pandemic, often get together and discuss our ideas, so that's a wonderful thing for me.
Thank you, Linda, creator of all this.